Hello everybody, Claudia Boleyn here, and today I'm reviewing Doctor Who Series 9, Episode 2, The Witch is Familiar by Stephen Moffat. As usual, all opinions expressed in this review are my own, so feel free to disagree in the comments section, just don't be rude, because as much as we love it, it is just a TV show. Okay, so first of all, I want to apologise for the setting here. I know I look very pale and ghostly. It's because it's very, very dark and late here. It's the only time I've got a free house to record this review, so I'm really sorry about that. I'll try and brighten it as much as I can without me disappearing completely from the frame. In the editing later, but that's why if it doesn't look as bright as usual. I found that this episode had three morals. Moral number one is never ever trust Hitler, even if he looks really cute and little and old, and he wants to see the sun with his little baggy eyes which haven't opened in years. Don't fall for that trick because he's still evil, so don't do it. Moral number two, do not trust Missy or the Master with anyone's life other than the Doctor's or her own. And moral number three, do not trust Stephen Moffat to write a pretty great episode without sticking a gendered slur slap bang in the middle for no reason at all. I will get to that later, of course, being the feminist that I am, but first I want to talk about Davros. I thought that the interactions between Davros and the Doctor this episode were absolutely fantastic. As you may know, I'm a huge fan of character-driven stories and episodes, and the reason why I've criticised Stephen Moffat quite a lot in the past is because I think a lot of his episodes have been more based around explosions and making things impossible and dark and scary, and those things are all great, but for me, Doctor Who is all about the character moments, and I really felt like we went back to that with this episode. It really struck a perfect balance, and the acting of Peter Capaldi and Julian Bleach was impeccable. I felt like I was watching some Oscar-nominated film. It really was that good. It was beautiful. The actual moral dilemma of this episode was great as well. I like Doctor Who to come with a bit of a deeper message, and I think the best episodes do hold a deeper message, which can be appreciated by all ages watching. And this one was interesting because it was really sort of going into the mind of a sort of like dictatory Nazi evil person. I hesitate to say going into the mind of Adolf Hitler because obviously it's entirely different, but I think the closest thing definitely that we have to Davros in this universe is Adolf Hitler. I think obviously the Daleks are a metaphor or an analogy for fascism and the Nazis, so I think it's a fair enough comparison to make. But it was kind of getting inside the mind of this character of Davros. It really struck me when Davros asked the Doctor if he thought he was a good man. Obviously, to most people the answer would be no, Davros is certainly not a good man. He's a very evil man. But looking at his own thought processes and the way he felt like he was protecting and defending his race and his people and where he thought he belonged, it's very interesting. Not that it excuses his actions, but it's certainly interesting to go into that mind. How much of that was true and how much of that was just a way to the Doctor is left up to us to decide, which is something that Stephen Moffat did, which I actually really enjoyed. I love the fact that during the Doctor and Davros' confrontation scene, you were never sure if they were quite telling the truth. You were never sure who had the upper hand in this conversation, and it just made it so compelling to watch. I wonder what fresh hell will be awaiting Clara Oswald next week. That is indeed sarcasm. I do not look forward to seeing Clara Oswald tortured every other week on Doctor Who. This episode was arguably one of the most horrendous things she's ever been through, I think. It was awful. I do worry a little. I'm going to make a little criticism here, so block your ears if you don't want to hear criticisms. But I feel like under Stephen Moffat's show running, and since he's taken over Doctor Who, his companions are not having such a good time with the Doctor. For example, with Rose and Donna, and maybe less so with Martha, but still with Martha as well, under Russell T Davies, at least you could see why the companions stayed. Like, you could see that they were having great times along with the bad times, and they were living an adventure. A lot of us would have wanted to be a companion, I think, in spite of the monsters, because there were so many good times as well. But with the later Amy and definitely with Clara, the good times are few and far between, and it just seems like endless torture. And it does make you wonder why Clara, as a character, would even stay. I mean, I don't want her to leave. I know Jenna Coleman is leaving, and I'm really sad about that. I don't want her character to go. But I do wonder why her character would stay with the Doctor, because he's not very nice to her, really. He's not very trustworthy. She constantly ends up almost dying and being tortured and going through the most horrific things, and it just doesn't make much sense to me. I miss basically having companions and the Doctor having fun together and not constantly being tortured and chased by monsters. Obviously, the being chased by monsters is a big part of Doctor Who, and I love it, but I also want to see that the companion's having a good time. That's something I thought of while watching the episode. So obviously we had poor Clara stuck within the Dalek casing thanks to Missy. She actually had wires suck into the sides of her head. I'm sure that was fun for Clara. But she basically couldn't get out of the Dalek without thinking open. Now this kind of seems like a plot hole to me, maybe I'm nitpicking a little bit too much, but if the Dalek casing is made to obey Clara's thoughts, such as when at the start Missy was saying, oh, think left, think right, and Clara was going from left to right in the Dalek, then why on earth, during that whole sequence, when surely the whole time she was thinking, for the love of God, please open and let me out, why did the Dalek not open? Did Clara not think open? I really find that hard to believe. I mean, are you really telling me that Clara Oswald, who's a very intelligent young woman, when Skaro is kind of getting destroyed and she's in a lot of danger and she's making her slow Dalek way towards the Doctor and trying to escape, you're really telling me that she never, in that time, thought, oh, I hope the casing opens so I can get out? Okay, a question I was asked to answer in this review by someone on Tumblr is, what do I think of the idea of the sonic screwdriver being replaced by a pair of sunglasses? My answer to that is actually that I don't mind. I kind of like the sunglasses, I think they're funny. I think that Doctor Who should always be changing and progressing, and I don't mind that. Also, I think it's a neat little thing for kids who watch it, because they all want to pretend, you know that all the kids want to pretend to be the Doctor. I used to want to be the Doctor, or one of the companions. But yeah, it's nice for them to have sunglasses, something they can just easily use as a prop. I'm sure the sonic screwdriver isn't gone for good. And, oh, it'll come back. Don't worry about that, it'll be fine. But if you're asking me what I think about that, really, I'm not nitpicky about that kind of thing. You know me, my nitpicks are usually to do with social justice or with character development issues, but I don't really mind that kind of thing. I enjoy seeing the new ideas, and I think the sunglasses look cool. Did anyone else this episode actually find themselves worryingly feeling sympathy for Davros and feeling sorry for him? Because I did, and it was disturbing, and I think that's very good writing by Stephen Moffat, because you would not think, going into the episode, oh, I'm going to feel sympathy and compassion for this evil little man who created the Daleks, who's basically Hitler. But you do confusingly feel sorry for him during this episode, and I do think that's very smart writing. I do have to commend Stephen Moffat on that, because I did find myself feeling sorry for Davros, wanting to hug him even. I mean, he's a bit gross, but I still would hug him. And then remembering, wait a second, who is this little man? What does he do? Wait, no, this is Davros, you do not want to hug this little old man. I loved seeing the Doctor back to being compassionate and actually being a Doctor again, because my favourite Doctor, I have two. 10 and 9 are my favourites. 10 is the Doctor I joined with, and 9 is the Doctor that is probably my favourite and I'm most likely to travel with. What I really like about 9 is the fact that he was very compassionate, and in the parting of the ways, he gave the speech about how he'd rather be a coward than a killer any day. That really impacted me. I'm so glad to see the Doctor go back to this and basically not want to be that action hero character. He just wants to help people. He went to Skaro because he wanted to save a sick person that needed his help. He wanted to be a good man. I love that. That's the Doctor I know and love, and I'm so thrilled that he's back, because with 11 at the end, he began to disappear. 11 was kind of very enamoured by River Song and her shooting things, and there was that Massacre of the Silence, which is a very contentious issue in the fandom, I can tell you. But yeah, I'm glad to see that with 12 we've returned to the Doctor's roots, and he's being compassionate, and I like that about him a lot. A lot of people are complaining about the fact that there are lots of different era Daleks in this episode, and saying it's not really continually correct. That doesn't sound right at all, but you know what I mean, it's not really technically correct. I don't mind, to be perfectly honest. I'm not nitpicky about those things again, and it looked really cool. I was just excited to see them, to be honest, so I'm not going to complain about getting loads and loads of cool Daleks, really. Something which confused me a little bit, which is not a plot hole necessarily, it's probably just the way I interpreted the episode personally, but it was the way the Daleks feel about Davros, because I got the impression that when Davros was with 10, when Davros met 10, the Daleks were treating him pretty badly. They were basically treating him like a pet. They were keeping him prisoner, and it was really awful. At the beginning of this episode, they actually seemed to care about Davros. I mean, he was like their father. When they thought Davros was coming out of his enclosure area, they weren't angry because, oh no, the pet's escaping, put the old man back in. They were worried. They were saying, assist him, he's in trouble. But later on in the episode, that all seemed to change again, because we had the Doctor saying, well, basically talking about how badly the Daleks were treating Davros and how they didn't treat him very well. So I don't know how we're supposed to see that relationship. How do Davros and the Daleks mesh? How do they get on? I'd just like to see that delved into a little more, because I can't get my head around the relationship between Davros and the Daleks yet, and I really want to. Like, do they see him as their father? Is he their pet? Do they... in this episode we found out that they do respect him, but they clearly don't love him because Daleks don't love. Another point that we came to in this episode, which I'll get to now, is that the idea that the Daleks do feel emotion, and they do feel perhaps what other beings feel. It's just transmitted into hatred, and that's what makes them a Dalek. A lot of people don't like that. They're saying that that's the kind of wrong characterisation for the Daleks. For me, I don't mind that characterisation, because I think it's an interesting contrast to the other big Doctor Who baddies, which are the Cybermen that have no emotion at all. The idea of the Daleks having emotion, but it all being hate, it's all negative emotion, it's all hatred and evil. I kind of like that idea. And it also ties into how the 10th Doctor said about how no wonder the Daleks scream. The idea of the Daleks screaming is really sad, it makes you pity them, and you also fear them, and that's just a great mixture for the Daleks, so I don't mind. Okay, so now I have to get to the big contentious issue of the episode, and the one I've received the most messages about, and it is Missy's, or Stephen Moffat's, use of the B word in Doctor Who. The B word I'm referring to is bitch. Yep, I'm going to say it in this review. Okay, so I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to tell you that I really disliked hearing it in the episode. It frustrated me. It annoyed me so much because it was unnecessary. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes the word bitch can be empowering, and if a woman wants to reclaim that word and think, okay, these people have called me a bitch forever, do you know what? I'm gonna own it. Yeah, okay, I'm a bitch. I'm not the sort of woman you want me to be. Never mind. I can deal with it. I'm happy with that. You have to deal with it. That's really cool. But what we have to remember is that in this instance, this is not a real woman reclaiming a slur. It is a fictional female character written by a male writer using a gendered slur. For a writer that's accused so often of being sexist, and my personal opinion on this is that there is quite a heavy undercurrent of sexism in Stephen Moffat's work, but I know lots of people disagree with me, and that's fine, it's completely up for debate. But for someone who is criticised for this so much, I do question why you would put that unnecessary gendered slur slap bang in the middle of your episode for no reason. It just seemed like a really odd thing to do, which I'm sure annoyed a lot of people, and probably offended quite a lot of people watching, not just women, a lot of people probably. Something I've been asked a lot since the episode aired is why I think that the word bitch is worse, for example, than the word bastard or something like that. The way I see it, the word bitch is a gendered word, a very gendered insult, and it's specifically used for women, or if it's used for other genders, the insult is in the comparison to women, so it is a very sexist word. It's also a word a lot of us women get called quite a lot of the time, and it can be really upsetting actually, and it's a way to silence and demean us. In terms of the word bastard, and why I don't think it's as bad, is that it's not a gendered term, and obviously it's not a nice thing to call someone. You know, it's never nice to call people names, but one word is specifically a gendered insult, and that's why I take particular issue with it. I know that a lot of people will say, oh, it's just a word, it doesn't really matter. And as much as I appreciate that opinion, I think it really does matter, because it's a word which is still being used against women all the time, and against other genders, comparing them to women to put them down. It's something that we don't need in a family show, really. Even if you think there's an excuse for it being in there, and you can argue, okay, it's Missy reclaiming the word. What I would like to ask you is why it was necessary in the first place. Was it relevant? Was it something that was vital to the plot? Because remember, that word came out of Stephen Moffat's mind. Ask yourself why that word came into Stephen Moffat's mind and how it managed to find itself in the episode. Also, because Missy is a very quotable, iconic character, this line is never going to disappear now. It's always going to be out there, so we're going to have people canonically referring to Missy as the bitch. It's going to appear on fan art, on GIFs, maybe on posters. It's going to become linked to her character. I just don't like the way that as soon as the Master identifies as female, it's okay. She suddenly starts calling herself gendered slurs. Like, oh, it's okay though, I'm just reclaiming it. Sorry, I just don't buy that. Okay, so I hope this is a shorter review than usual. I think I got out a lot of what I had to say last episode, so I will sum up this review by saying that I did enjoy the episode a lot, and for a Stephen Moffat two-parter, I think this was pretty good. I was very satisfied by the ending, which made me a little bit teary-eyed actually, seeing the Doctor and little Davros, just seeing the Doctor saving people, like saving children. That's what the Doctor should be, and I love seeing that. The acting in this episode was phenomenal. It's an episode that posed a lot of interesting moral questions, which I will be thinking about for a long time. I think it's an episode which people of different ages can all take different elements from. It did include many cool Daleks, and I think this is probably the best I've seen Peter Capaldi as 12, and it's certainly the most I've liked the 12th Doctor. So although I'm not rating the episodes this series on a scale of 1 to 10, I did think this one was very good. I look forward to watching it again. I've already seen it a couple of times, and yeah, I feel like things are looking up. I just wish that there hadn't been that gendered slur in the middle of the episode, because it really did spoil it for me. I do think this episode was very cleverly written, actually. I still think there are some issues. I'm not converted. I think there are still some issues with Stephen Moffat's writing, and I don't think it lives up to the Rusty Davies era two-parters at all, really. But for Stephen Moffat's era and for his two-parters, I think it was really good, and I enjoyed watching it, and that's the main thing. So I will try not to complain too much, hence why this review is pretty short. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Please tell me what you thought of the episode in the comments, and you can tell me what you thought of any of the points I brought up in this video. Also, if you have a question for me that you'd like me to answer in my next review, perhaps after watching the next episode you might think, oh, I've got a question that I'd like Claudia to address in her review, then do it on Saturday night or on Sunday, and I will check my ask box, and I will try and answer your question in the review. Okay, I love you loads, and I really hope you enjoyed it, because I certainly did. Okay, love you loads, and I'll see you soon. Bye!